everybody. Welcome back to Goodnight Lighthouse. I'm Miss Dorothy and I'm here to read you another story. And I've got a book for you today because April Fools! Today is April Fool's Day. Did anybody say that to you today? Did anybody say April Fools and try to play a trick on you? Well, that's what people do on April Fool's Day, which is April 1st, which is today. And I think I found a book that if you don't know what April Fool's Day is, you will when this book is done, because this is called April Fool, Watch Out School. April Fool, Watch Out School. This is about a little guy who goes to school and he wants to play tricks on everybody, but they keep playing tricks on him. And then he has a very secret trick that he wants to play on somebody, and we have to wait and find out what it is. Maybe we can do an April Fool's joke on somebody. Are you ready to get inside this book and find out all about April Fool's Day? Good. I need you to sit up and listen up, because here we go. April Fool, Watch Out at School, written by Diane deGroat. Gilbert woke up and looked at the calendar. It was April 1st, April Fool's Day. He hopped out of bed and started filling his backpack with tricks to play on his friends. His sister Lola peeked in the door and said, "Knock, knock." Gilbert answered, "Who's there?" "April Fool!" Lola shouted. Gilbert laughed and explained, "You're supposed to play a trick on someone, not tell jokes." "Okay," Lola said. "Do a trick on me." But Gilbert didn't have time to play tricks on his little sister. He was already out the door. Look, he's putting all kinds of sneaky things into his backpack for April Fool's Day. Gilbert met Patty on the corner as they walked to school. Patty suddenly said, "Watch out, Gilbert! Your shoe's untied!" Gilbert stopped to tie his shoe, but it was already tied. "Gotcha!" Patty said. "April Fool!" Gilbert laughed. He couldn't wait to try that trick on someone else. Principal Pug smiled and waved when they saw them. "Morning good," he said. "Day nice have." He was talking backwards. The bell rang, and Patty said to Gilbert, "Up hurry, let's!" They're saying everything backwards because it's April Fool's Day. Mrs. Byrd was not smiling or waving. She said, "Put away your tricks so we can get started with our reading lesson. Gilbert, please start on page 10. Gilbert stood up and read out loud. "Where is my book?" Sam asked. "I need it now." Mrs. Byrd stopped him and said, "When someone reads out loud, it would be nice to know where the punctuation marks are." Then she said, "Here's an idea. When you come to a period, say, pop. And when you see a quotation mark, say, poofed. A question mark can be, huh? And the exclamation point is a bong. Try it." She's teaching him how to read out of the book. And look, on the board it says, today is April 1st, but April's written upside down. Gilbert took a deep breath and started over. Poofed. "Where is my book? Huh? Poofed." Sam asked. "Pop. Poofed. I need it now, boing." "Woo," Gilbert said. "This is hard." Lewis said, "And it sure is funny, boing." Everyone laughed. Mrs. Byrd laughed too and said, "Thank you for being such a good sport, Gilbert." April Fool! Even the teacher pulled an April Fool's trick. Gilbert sat down and made a loud sound in his seat. "That wasn't me," he cried. "Somebody put a whoopee cushion there." "Gotcha," Lewis said. Oh no. He put something on the chair that made a loud noise when Gilbert sat down. They finished their reading silently, but Gilbert kept thinking pop and boing whenever he saw a period or an exclamation point. He also kept thinking about how he could play a trick on Lewis. He had hot, spicy gum in his pocket, so he turned and asked Lewis, "Would you like a piece of gum, Lewis?" "No way," Lewis said. Later, Gilbert put a plastic spider on Lewis' desk when he wasn't looking. "This is so fake," Lewis said when he handed it back. Then he slapped Gilbert on the back and said, "Your tricks are the worst." Oh no, nothing Gilbert's doing is working. Oh no, but Gilbert wasn't giving up. He still had a few more tricks up his sleeve. He also had a sign on his back that said, "I smell." No wonder everyone was snickering as he walked to the cafeteria. "Louis!" Gilbert grumbled. Gilbert realized that Louis must have put that on his back. Before he ate, Gilbert first checked his seat for a whoopee cushion. There was none. So he sat down and opened his lunchbox. Suddenly he jumped out of his seat and yelled, "Ah! There was a worm in his apple!" "It's just a gummy worm," Patty said. "And look, there's a note." The note said, "April Fool." It was signed, "Mother." Gilbert couldn't believe it. Even his mother had tricked him. Everybody's tricking Gilbert, and Gilbert hasn't been able to trick anybody. At recess, Frank said, "Watch out, Gilbert, there's a bee on your head." Gilbert swatted at his head while Frank laughed and said, "April Fool." Margaret said, "Watch out, Gilbert, your shoe's untied." Gilbert bent to tie his shoe. "Made you look," Margaret said. Gilbert sighed. He couldn't believe that he had fallen for that trick twice in one day. Then Philip shouted, "Watch out, Gilbert!" But Gilbert wasn't going to get tricked again. He said, "I'm not!" Before he could finish, a kickball smacked him on the head. "I told you to watch out," Philip said. "I thought it was another trick," Gilbert groaned as he rubbed his head. "This is the worst April Fool's Day ever. Everybody's playing tricks on me, but I can't trick anyone." "I told you your tricks were bad," Louis laughed. "You'll never trick anyone." Gilbert said, "That's what you think, Louis. I have one more trick that I've been saving just for you." Louis laughed again and said, "What is it?" "I'm not telling you. You'll have to wait and see it." Gilbert whispered to Patty what his trick was. Patty said loudly, "You're right, Gilbert. That's the best trick ever." Louis snorted and said, "You'll never April Fool me." Uh-oh, Gilbert still has a plan. As they walked back in the classroom, Gilbert said, "Oh, Louis, let me hold that door for you." Louis asked, "Is that your trick?" "No," said Gilbert. He held the door open, and Louis walked through very quickly. During spelling, Louis couldn't find his eraser. Gilbert said, "Here, Louis, you can borrow mine." Louis looked at the eraser and said, "Is this a trick?" "No," Gilbert said. But Louis inspected the eraser very carefully before using it. Louis is so nervous. He doesn't know what the trick's going to be. When they went to the art table, Gilbert pulled a chair out and said, "Here you go, Louis. Have a seat." Louis looked at the chair and said, "It's a trick, right?" "No," Gilbert said. But Louis checked the chair very carefully for a whoopee cushion before he sat down. When Louis got up to clean his brush, Gilbert said, "Be careful, Louis. Your shoe is untied." "Ha!" Louis said. "I'm not falling for that old trick." But his shoe was untied, and Louis did fall when he stepped on the lace. Everyone laughed. "I told you it was untied," Gilbert said. "I thought it was a trick," Louis said, tying his shoe. "No," Gilbert said. "My trick is much better than that." Wow, whatever the trick is, it has Louis very nervous. During quiet time, Gilbert brought a book to Louis and said, "I think you should read this, Louis. I really liked it." Louis wouldn't take the book. He said, "Is it a fake book? Is it glued shut? Is it going to squirt me when I open it?" "No," Gilbert said. "It's just a really good book." Louis took the book, but he couldn't concentrate on the story. He kept looking over his shoulder to see where Gilbert was. He's so nervous. Louis was so busy watching for Gilbert's trick, he didn't see Kenny putting a fake spider on his desk. Louis screamed when he saw it. "Gotcha!" Kenny said. And when Patty told Louis his shoe was untied, he bent to tie it. "Gotcha!" Patty laughed. And when Louis sat on his own seat, a whoopee cushion went off, and Margaret said, "Gotcha!" Everyone laughed. When the bell rang, Louis finally shouted, I give up, Gilbert. I can't stand it anymore. Do your trick already." Gilbert smiled and said, "There isn't any trick, Louis. I just made you think there was. You got April fooled." "Gotcha," said Gilbert. Well
Wow, Gilbert really did trick Louis. Did you see that? First it off happened that everybody was tricking Gilbert. Everybody was saying, April Fools, look, your shoe's untied. April Fools. And he kept falling for the tricks. And then Louis kept playing tricks on him, and he said, okay, Louis, but my trick is even trickier. And Louis was worried and nervous all day waiting for the trick to happen. But the trick was that there was no trick. He just made Louis think there was a trick all day long, just so he could say, April Fools. That was a crazy book. But that's what April Fool's Day is all about. Everybody trying to play tricks on each other. Nice tricks, not mean tricks. It's not nice to be mean any day, even on April Fool's Day. But it's fun to play some tricks. You can play tricks on mom and dad, and you can say, April Fools, but only on April 1st, because that is April Fool's Day. But that's behind us, right? April Fool's Day is over. It's time to get into bed. No April Fools. It's time for us to get into bed. I need you to get under your covers, get cuddled up, curled up, ready for a really good night's sleep. And the next time April Fool's rolls around, you make sure that you have some good tricks on your mind so you can say April Fools. But if mom and dad or teacher tell you to stop, obey, and obey right away. And then come back and see Miss Dorothy. I'm going to be sitting right here, ready to read another book to you. Bye!
Thanks for reading with Miss Dorothy. I hope you enjoyed this book, and I hope you'll come back soon to read another. What's your favorite book? Drop Miss Dorothy a note and let me know. I'll go find it, and I'll read it to you. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you soon.